Card, I have it. Yeah, keep it right now. Right. Calling to order the April 21st, 2022 meeting of the Historic Resources Commission here in 111 North Front Street, room 204, at 4:27 p.m. here. Our next business meeting will be Thursday, May 5th, 2022 at noon here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. Our next hearing will be Thursday, May 19th, 2022 at 4 p.m., 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. Connie, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do. Connie Corbett, Assistant Historic Preservation Officer.
Thank you, Connie. Introducing the commissioners here this evening, starting on my left.
Autumn Weber.
Joseph Cade, Chair.
Hi, Stuart Gibney.
Wonderful, thank you. Connie, is there anything for public forum this evening?
No public forum.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Moving on to approval of the staff approvals as presented here.
So moved.
There's a
Second.
motion and a second. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes, staff approval is approved. Approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting, which is March 17th, 2022.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes, and it's approved. Connie, moving on to our first case this evening for certificates of appropriateness.
Okay, item number 1, 223 West Beachwell Boulevard. This was to install new Trex balcony floor. The application was moved to staff approval at the April 7th HRC business meeting. While the Trex material is an alternative material to the generally approved wood decking, the floor of the balcony is not visible from the ground at any point. A COA has been issued and no action required.
Wonderful, thank you. Case number 2.
Number 2, 35 West Jeffrey Place for landscaping. This application was continued from the December 16, 2021 HRC hearing to allow the applicant time to submit a revised landscape plan. Staff conducted the site visit with owner and landscape designer on April 12th. Some plants have been removed or moved back to the street. Current photos and a revised plan will be submitted for the May 19 HRC hearing. Continued application to the May 19 HRC hearing.
Okay, is there a motion to continue this application?
So moved.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Case continued. Case number 3.
633 South Ohio. In regard to a retaining wall, this application, in regard to a retaining wall constructed prior to approval, was continued from March hearing. allow the applicant time to complete the stone design detail on a sample area of the existing concrete block wall, and no new information has been submitted yet, so we need to continue to the May hearing.
Okay, and just Connie, just before we make motion on that, you have been in communication with the applicant, correct?
Yes, just today, but I did, no photos were submitted, so there isn't anything to look at.
Okay, we'll
Make a
Uh,
motion to continue to May 19th.
wonderful. Motion,
Second.
second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Case number 4.
73 East Granby's Avenue for a new patio. This application was to remove the existing wooden deck on the front elevation of the building as built prior to review and approval and install a new paver patio. The application was moved to staff approval at the April 7th HRC business meeting. A COA will be issued upon receipt of the manufacturer and color product cut sheet for the new pavers.
Wonderful, thank you. Case number 5.
34 West Broad Street. This is for installation of new doors at the Palace Theater. This application was moved to staff approval at the April 7th HRC business meeting. For direction of the HRC, staff met with the applicant on site to determine the appropriate bronze finish color. And COAs have been issued for the HRC and the Downtown Commission. Action required.
Wonderful, thank you. Case number 6.
170 West Jeffrey Place, we do have someone attending for that application.
Sir, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
Wesley Dunlap, tenant.
Wonderful, thank you. Fine.
Go ahead and have a seat. Thank you. So this is to request to retain the existing 12 by 21 by 6 steel storage shed as installed prior to review and approval. The new shed has a wood slat floor and is installed with 14 mobile homes mounted on anchors. The shed is not set on any foundation material. So the approximately 220 square foot metal shed was installed prior to obtaining a COA. Due to its size, zoning review and building permits are also required. April 7th business meeting comments included that concerns about the overall size, height, roof pitch, and details of the shed, which do not blend with the character of the neighborhood. And is there a way to modify the shed so it fits into the character of the neighborhood better? No new material have been submitted since that this meeting. So recommendation is following discussion with the applicant, recommend continuing the application to allow the applicant time to explore options for modifying or screening the metal shed. The existing shed does not meet the Columbus Register guidelines for garages and outbuildings, which I listed below, which include things such as that it should be compatible with the similar historic structures in the surrounding area, match details of doors, windows, and eaves on the house, of the main structure. Use a historic pitched roof, and use compatible exterior garage doors.
What would you like to add, or would you like to add anything?
I'm new to this thing. I spoke with the HOA. I was not even aware that it was a historic community. Spoke with the HOA, and the HOA told me as long as it was in my yard, I would be okay. For clarity's sake, there was I heard a comment in the meeting that suggested if permitted, it'll give everybody or others in the neighborhood the allowance to do what they want to do. That is never my position. I followed the process as I thought it was, as I understood it to be. So it is not an action to try to avoid this system. I was not aware of this system. The house that we live in, we love the house. We actually intend on staying there throughout. However, the house is, the main house as well as the garage are extremely dense. I'm a disabled vet, and it necessitates me, I'm not allowed to push a lawnmower. There is 2 lawnmowers in the garage, riding a motorcycle. So, and then several yard tools. So the reason that we got the shed, and even at the size that we got it, is because we thought it more apropos to have these things in a shed as opposed to just sitting in the backyard with tarps or covers over them, which we thought would be destructive to the community. So I don't know, I haven't done anything yet because again, ignorant to the process. If there's a way I can put a faux exterior to it or anything, I'm willing to do what's necessary. The idea of having to have it removed is literally nightmarish to me. Because there's a company that purchased it from that brought it and installed it. I wouldn't have a clue how to uninstall it. And so if permitted, I would do what is necessary to put an exterior around it or something. But my wife and I are tearing our cars up, trying to get in and out because of the dense nature of our garage and all of the tools and equipment that's in it. So we thought we were addressing the community by putting that up so that things would not just be laced in our backyard. So I do extend my apology. It was not a thing of being irreverent. It was ignorance.
I mean, did you make any suggestions about screening? You noted that in your notes, but the fence it appears to be of the max height. I don't know what other screening suggestions you have.
Street, it would have to be, bushes or something like that, but they'd have to be very tall, so. I mean, I think the only screening that could be done, it would be almost like building around it. That would be kind of the expense of having 2 buildings, really.
But tall bushes would suffice.
I don't know, I mean, it's 6 feet tall, is that right, or is it
I think it's a little taller.
taller than that? 12 by 21 by 6, is that the?
6 is the door.
And you can see it from the front too. I
Can't
didn't
really
notice
see it
that
from,
picture.
I
Okay,
can't see it from the main street, but you can see it from.
that alleyway. Yeah.
It's not an alley, it's a street.
Oh, that's a street back there. Okay.
I would be willing to purchase taller bushes to put back there, arms or whatever if necessary. Just really begging your mercy and consideration.
Now, can I ask a question? When you said that you spoke to the HOA, you mean the OB12 Association? Who was the person you spoke to? You?
I was given a number, and I do apologize. I was given a number to the Homeowners Association. I think I might have shared with you. I was initially told there is not actually, as it were, a homeowners association in the community,
It's the OB12 Association.
right? So that they only collect dues for the fall leaf pickup and snow removal and things like that. And so I was told, she questioned whether it would be in my yard, in my backyard, and I said, yes, ma'am, it would. She said, well, as long as it's in your yard, I don't see any problem with it. Do it. Again, that's without my being aware that there was a historic commission.
And one more question. You have spoken to people in building and zoning too, haven't you?
Yes, he was very gracious. He, in essence, suspended everything pending the outcome of this. If I do get a certificate of approval, then he will allow me to come down and go through the process.
What I'd be willing to do is to allow at least the applicant time to propose something and put something together. We just would have to have a package of what you're proposing. When you say screening it, we'd have to have something on paper that is something that could, be justifiably inspected by the building department to show what you're proposing for a modification, whether it's, adding stuff on the exterior, whether it's adding something that helps its roof line look like the roof line of the house or the garage, or whether it's something that dresses up the exterior, whether it's significant, mature plantings to help cover over it. I mean, I'm willing to at least always entertain the idea that, to give you time to address it, to come back to us with something. So continuing the case, I would support that.
I would too.
I guess I have a question. Again, I'm sitting in a seat of ignorance, so I threw out suggestions based on my assumption of what the problem is. I'm not clear as to what I need to do because I don't know if the issue is the fact that it's seen over the fence or what. So if I can be directed to where I can get the exact information, what I need to address.
So there is the Columbus guidelines that are published out there, both in the zoning code. They're available on the city website. In fact, Connie can probably send you a link to them. It talks about historic appropriateness. We are not your designer or your architect or you as applicant, so we can't actually make, say to you, this is what you should do. You have to present to us what you would like to do. We can help guide you through something that we would then be able to approve. I think the general overall concern is what you really have is an agricultural building in a neighborhood where it's void of historic appropriateness. It really doesn't pay tribute to any of the types of architecture you see in your neighborhood. From its roof line to its ability to be seen above the fence line in the rear. I think if, you're not able to alter the height of it, it's like, okay, what do you do to solve that? Is that, do you overbuild a structure over the top of this thing? I don't know. Is it you plant, big evergreen, mature plants that are going to have to exceed at least the height of it so you can't be seen? I don't know. I think one of the challenges though is, it's so different from the house and the garage and what's probably else in your neighborhood that we would leave it to you to decide what it is you think you could come up with. But if this were proposed brand new out the gate and you hadn't built it, we probably would have said, this is not anything we could accept as being historically accurate. It doesn't have an overhang. It doesn't have eave lines that match, or roof lines that sort of match some of the architecture in the neighborhood. Granted, new construction is supposed to look like new construction. It still has to fit within the context of the neighborhood. It's void of windows. It's got a roll-up door. Some of those things you may not be able to change. And I think we've always been sort of a little bit more flexible on trying to meet somebody in the middle. If there's an extenuating case, it's always good to know. In this case, it sounds like there may be some extenuating, medical conditions or some other things to know, but we can't usually grant a rule on that solely. We can start to think about those things. We do want you to be able to live in the home, occupy the home, and maintain the neighborhood. So those are other important things to consider in this. But I would say you really just have to work with Connie to look through the guidelines. The guideline book that's out there has a section on garages and buildings and outbuildings. And it has some pictures and photos of things. And you may want to one of the best things you could do is poke around your neighborhood, see what your other neighbors' garages look like. And try to propose a solution that helps it blend and helps it just not stick out.
Or to look like your own garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're either matching the pitch or screening it, which Connie said in her comments. So I guess I'm supportive of continuing it to give you time to think about it. As you're doing the planning, like if you research plants that you might want to propose, email Connie. If he can email you the guidelines that he's mentioning so you can read them for yourself. But the goal is that it either matches the neighborhood because it's gonna be viewable, or you're screening it and it's not viewable.
So last question, the screening issue, is the screening issue concerning?
That rear.
lining?
Yes.
Okay, so
What are the neighbors inside?
if,
Anywhere can be seen from public right of way or from neighbors or whatever. So, it might be,
Side and
yeah,
rear.
and you would have to, like you were saying, someone was saying, I think they were saying that plantings, they would have to be really tall and bushy, so
yes,
that might be more expensive than just building something to somehow screen it, and that's something we'll look at.
yes,
And did you look at the staff report? Did you look at the staff report?
from the previous meeting?
No, that was attached to the agenda.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. So those guidelines that are listed there, those are the guidelines for garages and stuff. So look at those things, how it talks about roof pitch and all that sort of thing. And then as you come up with ideas, just email me and we'll go back and forth until we come up with something.
Yes.
I make a motion to continue to the next HRC meeting on May 19th.
Second.
Wonderful. Motion a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. We look forward. Most important thing here is maintain communication with Connie about making progress and or proceeding forward. If you need additional time, additional guidance, as long as you're communicating, we can extend as may be needed
Yes.
to, help you out as well.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 6, 580 East Rich Street. We have something for that one. This is for new construction. We looked at this one a couple of times before. 6 new dwelling units getting 2 separate buildings. Application has been previously reviewed in December and February and March. Comments included at the business meeting. The building on sheet A21 looks good. That's the one that was a little bit more developed, I guess. And the building on sheet A22 still has an agricultural look. Maybe it's the board and batten siding or the white color. The vertical could be emphasized. Need to understand all exterior colors. Windows seem small, maybe change to 2/2s to 1/1s. Need to have all trim size, overhangs, trim around windows, etc. called out for both buildings. Recommend, following discussion with the applicant, recommend continuing the application to allow applicant time to submit final drawings and materials, including section drawings of all eaves and overhangs, door cut sheets for both buildings, stone lintel material decals on the brick building, all exterior light fixture cut sheets and indicated on drawings for both buildings. Details of the panels under the windows of the brick building, landscape plan, trash dumpster location, and screening.
Wonderful. If I can have you raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth in the testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
Full name and affiliation with the property for record.
My name is Carrick Sherrill, and I'm the project architect.
Thank you, sir. Do you have anything additional to add?
I don't really have anything additional to add. I'm here probably mostly to discuss the building, the more rear building. We have changed the board and batten siding to more of the panel, the reveal panel fiber cement cladding to avoid that agricultural look. I've included a rendering of the building that fronts Walnut on the first page. That would be indicative of the colors of the whole project. I understand the details that I need to provide before final approval, so I guess the window sizes on the interior building and the cladding material is kind of what's up for discussion.
I think generally, as I recall from a business meeting, is if you go to page 9. So, and Stuart, we could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the biggest concern came up is because of a lot of the 2/2 divided windows. It felt still a little bit agricultural, just too divided up. And I think most of the commission felt like this piece was bright, but it was this piece that felt still sort of agricultural barn-like. So we wondered about just going to simple double hung windows, I think was the message. Just simplify it a little bit, take the divided, take the
Sure.
dividers out.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I understand that. Yeah, I think in just the quick comments that I got in the email, maybe I didn't fully understand the intent there. Because the size is kind of dictated by the pinch point between the pitched roof of the brick portion and then the eave of the taller portion. So, but moving to a single hung or a double hung rather than a 2 over 2 would be.
We were just trying to avoid this feel like the modern farmhouse home aesthetic we see out there, which
Sure.
wouldn't really fit the district.
Sure. Okay. In terms of the cladding though, Connie, do you have the latest drawings that I sent that show the panelized version?
Thought that I put up the lights. These are dated 3/23/20.
Yeah, I sent ones to you and Lewis. These are dated 4/11. I mean, there's not a terrible difference. It's just I used a panel version of fiber cement versus the board and batten.
So you've kind of just grid it with a panel system.
Yeah, so it'll have less shadow.
Do you have that on your iPad?
Yes.
If you're able to approach at least to see what direction you're going, that might help continue the conversation here.
May I approach?
Yes, please. Because we can help get you there. Yes, I think that would.
I mean, and then of course, in a drawing like this, you see the reveals a lot more deeply than you would in real life, so. Okay.
I mean, that to me, that helps really take it to.
Does it change your thoughts on the windows?
I think it helps kind of take the edge off. Maybe it's the board and batten that was pushing it towards the.
I mean, that happens, but I think the window modification would really clear that out. Even with the new cladding. I think your question is, since the new cladding is there, does that affect the way we feel about the windows?
Yes,
Yeah. I think it would be cleaner is less is better.
okay,
Take your case.
okay.
But I generally would gather that if you were able to shore up all the section details of overhangs and detailing trims and cornice lines and all the things we need for a full submittal. I mean, I think
Close.
you're very close to just get those materials and you're probably off to a full approval.
Okay. Cool. Great.
Material samples, anything else that Connie needs for a full package, but
Cut sheets for lights and
cut sheets for any lights.
Oh, yeah, the Lewis, who's the downtown, oh, no, wait, yeah. We sent him both sent the same list that I just read off here, so.
Yeah.
Great. I think we're moving in the right direction.
make a motion to continue to May 19th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Have a good evening.
Case number 8, 108 West Royal Forest Boulevard.
This was to install a new rubber roof.
Mhm.
We have someone here for this one, from J.F. Baker.
Anybody here for case number 8?
J.F. Baker.
We're gonna come back to
We
it.
requested that they be here, but, you come back to it.
Okay, let's come back to it then. Case number 9, 1251 Brighton Road. Approach. Anybody who might be speaking on this? Come forward. Slide up.
Oh,
the chair.
you can go ahead.
It's all right. If the three of you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
Okay, wonderful. If each of you could state your full name and affiliation with the property for record.
I'm Scott Bogus. I'm the general contractor with Tyevco.
Wonderful.
I'm Brandon Chu. I'm the architect with Sagan Associates.
I'm Tenor Forrest, the Executive Director of Central Communities.
Great, thank you. Connie.
Okay, so this is for a new pavilion and platform, which is like a bandstand or space for activities like that. So March 7th, business meeting comments included, consider lap siding instead of board and batten. Think the project is part of the overall adaptive use of the property and is appropriate. It could be considered as temporary. Provide all overhang details, provide all corner board and other trim details, provide paint color manufacturer's name, and provide an accurate site plan showing the location of new structures. Revised drawings have been submitted in response to business meeting comments, and the proposed accessory structures are consistent with the character of the property and neighborhood. Recommend approval of the application as modified.
Can I ask 2 questions?
You can always ask questions or add any commentary.
Nope, you
Why
only
is
have,
this called conceptual? Because I was thinking we could, this is approved, we could move forward and build it. I just didn't understand.
That's just a typo.
Oh, okay, good.
We would, as part of any motion to approve, we can stipulate that it's not conceptual.
Even if I put it on as conceptual, if the commission feels that you have submitted additional stuff after they just change it to.
I only have one last question. I know we talked about, we mentioned in the business meeting around painting this structure. And from talking with the experts, what I'm hearing is, painting around the windows and things like that, that makes sense. But with the deck, I'm very concerned being, part of a nonprofit with maintenance costs and having something that needs to be painted every 2 years. Whereas if we were using something that was more opaque or if it was the wood, we'd be removing a lot of costs that would be invested in the community instead of this deck.
I think what we recommended based in our meeting is that it be a thick stain, but not necessarily just left untreated, treated wood.
Does that change?
Well,
once it dries out.
just from my experience, any type of solid color stain that would hide the knots. And it was mentioned that they didn't want to see the knots in the wood, is going to peel on a wear surface. We're not worried about the walls or the trim or the soffits or the siding, just the wear surface where they walk.
And dance.
That part is going to probably peel very often. And it's not so much from actually wearing on it with your shoes, as much as it is moisture and evaporation in the wood blowing the paint off. Because it's a solid color versus like a transparent, but a transparent, you're gonna see the knots, the profile. So,
Is there another material that could be?
Not that we can afford, unfortunately. Yeah, we'd love to.
I mean, yeah,
Get a
there's
different material.
Trex and Timber Tech and all those composites.
Which we have approved for others on a case-by-case basis. Fortunately, though, we have to toe the fine line of when you say you can't afford it, well, when you're creating an additional structure entirely on the site, that's
Very expensive stuff.
So, but to do just the raw pressure-treated wood decking for us is not consistent or compatible with the historic district.
The other wood on the property, is it treated annually? So there's a porch and a ramp on other parts of the property that are, it looks to be real wood, is that treated?
Well, not annually, because you don't have to paint it.
Right, but regularly,
But
is that?
we just went and got approval to redo all of that about.
It's been in
a few
disrepair.
months ago.
Okay,
And that is part of another approval, and we're gonna repaint all of the woodwork. So
okay,
it's part of this larger project.
Got it.
And it was definitely deteriorating.
It's okay if we have to
Yeah,
paint the floor, we
it
have
was
to
I
paint the
figured
floor.
we'd ask, but if we have to do
We'll
it.
ask.
And on the current drawings, it's called out as the gray, solid body stain
Right there.
there. So that's what's currently in the application. I've been reading the
okay.
drawings.
And I did have one additional question for you. Is there any power being brought to this where you would have light fixtures on this at all? Just knowing the neighborhood, is there any exposed visual light fixtures?
Not exposed.
Some recessed cans.
In the gazebo part, it would be up underneath the roof because it's kind of a vaulted roof on the underside. It'd be up underneath, not exposed. They need to be able to see from the street.
Okay.
Any other electric is actually like an outlet that would
Okay.
be on.
But no sconces or anything else like that.
And we called off the color to be a little warmer, so it's more traditional to incandescent, not, yellow halide or anything.
Thank you.
Right,
Extreme bright white.
LED blue.
Right.
Yeah, it's called out, it just, you can't see the fixture, so. What do you think about the trim? So they're going from 4-inch lap to 4-inch edge trim. It's already. Any other thoughts, concerns? I make a motion to accept as proposed.
Or second.
There's a motion and a second. As under a further discussion point, I would like to ask the motioner and the seconder to be okay that this be noted in the record as a final approval, just to address or clarify the record. Great. Okay, great. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Congratulations. Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Case number 10-609 South Ohio Avenue. Good evening. If each of you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening? Do. Wonderful. If you could each state your full name and association with the property for record.
Brandon Shook.
The mail on honor.
Thank you. Connie.
Okay, so I do have this listed as conceptual, the new addition. It's demolished the existing one-story frame rear addition, which is non-contributing. And then build a new two-story rear addition. March 7th business meeting comments included that to remove all wood grain from the drawings. The wood grain would not be approved. That was not done, but maybe that was just.
I can cover that.
A transom should be added above the rear door. Provide drawings showing column trim at top and bottom. Are they box columns? Overhang should be about 16 inches. Pull the addition in on the right side so the overhangs will not extend beyond the wall of the main house. Align sills of windows on new additions with sills of window on brick house. Show that are downspout locations and height. Why are there no windows on the first floor of the addition? Applicant has submitted revised drawings based on business meeting comments. Recommend moving application from conceptual review to new application. And recommend approval of the application with the following changes. Modify the first floor windows to coordinate better with other windows. And wood trim above doors and windows to be 1x5 rather than 1x4. It generally is on a little bit wider on the top. Provide any exterior light fixtures to staff. And they submitted all the colors and the shingles and so forth. The Craftsman doors that is generally okay for the rear of the building. And we had discussed at the business meeting that we don't generally approve the buttons and the half-light doors, but you thought maybe it was a rear elevation.
Great. Do you have anything additional you'd like to add?
I guess I can cover the wood. I kept the wood grain in there just because that was real wood, not like that's a post. It's a header, it's a ridge beam. It's just so that it shows that's actual wood, not fake wood. So they can remove it from the drawings. I thought it was a little bit more clear to show that's actually the material. We're not covering it. We're painting it, but not covering it in anything else.
And then the windows on the rear, you sort of kind of discuss that a little bit in email. You want to talk about those small windows?
Yeah. So we, originally did not have windows on the first floor, just simply due to the layout of that first floor. We did add these based on the comments from the business meeting. Just again, due to the layout, full size windows would not fit in the structure with the layout of the first floor. But we also did attempt to match property, I think 3 doors down, also with a rear addition like this that does have windows like this on the rear. So we attempted to be consistent with those.
So just to add, it's 587 to 589 South Ohio. 3 doors north or 4 doors north. There's a picture, I have a picture on here of what we used in the neighborhood for inspiration. I think it's just a couple pages down. Oh, yep.
What's in this room? Is this a hallway? What is the,
Yeah, so the first floor is just an entryway
okay.
in from the exterior, and then a stairway to the second floor of the structure. Yeah, so that bottom picture again was just what we used for inspiration for those windows. But I think we're open to ideas. It's just the size, we have to be, make sure that the size of whatever those windows fits within the layout of the first room.
And the original drawing had no window right there?
There are pictures of the original of what it looks like right now. I would say it was not original, but.
No, I think she's saying the original.
Oh, the original proposal, yes, correct.
Yes.
And then the.
What you viewed at the business
Yeah.
meeting did not have any windows on the first floor.
I couldn't squeeze a 1/1 right there.
I think,
You mean
if we were to do an X-ray view of the interior on this back wall, there'll be a couple stairs that start, once you enter that side door, a few feet, and then stairs start. So I think, we could do a taller window on the right side, like closer to the entry door. That could be a taller window. It's just that left window would not be able to be as tall. Again, just due to the fact that there's a couple seats.
I still sort of struggle with those small back windows and the one to the right of the door as well, just because the heads just don't feel right for a historic district. It's just, they're just pushed too low.
Yeah.
And, even on the back, rather than the 2 small windows, if you said to me, oh, I could only fit one with the right size and the right feeling head height, I'd say just do 1 rather than do 2. Don't force the symmetry on it if it felt better.
I guess a question on that is what head height would you be looking for? I mean, I think on the one on the right, the south elevation, I tried to match the top of the window to the top of the door and the bottom of the window to the existing structure windows. I don't know if it'd look better if it went all the way up to the top of the transom.
Yeah, I think your first floor windows are just, they must have you have a real high floor to ceiling relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're very big windows.
So on the side window, I guess that's what you just asked.
Yeah.
Would you prefer the head of that side window to match the transom?
For me, I guess if you were able to bring this up to be level with that side, that would at least then, you're never gonna see this thing like this anyways. You're never gonna see it flat. You're always gonna kind of see it as you walk your backyard.
Yeah.
I think if just that comes up and that would be maybe, I think that would feel right.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
like these 2 little windows.
I mean, I don't, we're not attached to those.
Okay,
either,
but I like
so.
the idea of the right side, same dimension, with the other window, top elevation.
Because then at least as you're kind of coming alongside the house there, and you're kind of coming around the corner and you see the door, you're going to see the window on the back end, you're going to see the door
Okay.
with the clear story window above it, and you're going to kind of make that relationship 3-dimensionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
So just to be clear, you'd be okay with removing the left window and just having a full-size window on the right-hand side? Okay. What do you?
Like, I mean, I do think that would look better.
Yeah.
And I think the other comments Connie just had is following light fixture cut sheets. I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
To cover on that, I mean, we're probably gonna do can lights.
We're just gonna do
above.
recess notes.
What I would say is if you're proposing that, you'll either have to alter your drawings, or if you're gonna do sconces or anything, you can still submit cut sheets to staff. Staff would get them to our business meeting. If they're approvable, should staff approve them anyways. We can make that a condition here anyways.
And our trim.
And the trim, I think, Connie, you said 5 inches at the top instead of 1 by
Instead of
4.
1 by 4 is 1 by 5.
Yeah, 1 by 5. So,
What is this conceptual form?
Oh, this is conceptual.
I was recommending that it be moved to final approval. If you feel comfortable with them just submitting the revised drawings to me and the light fixtures.
I think that's good. Make a motion to approve with the comments that were added recently, which included the alteration of the west elevation window on the drawing to include only one full-size window, and that window to also match the increased size window on the south elevation, and some minor details with trim, sizing, and cut sheets for any kind of fixtures.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Further clarifications needed? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Wonderful. Just work with Connie to get the revised drawings in and a couple little things needed.
perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Case number 1143 Hamilton Park.
We didn't have anybody come in for the West Royal Forest, did we?
So, J.F. Baker.
You can raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
Wonderful. If you could state your full name and association with the property for record.
My name is Kevin Peter Heides. I'm the owner.
Thank you. Connie.
Okay, so this is for new construction, new garage. Okay, March 7th, the business meeting comments included, a 3-car garage, with more formal details appears appropriate for this particular property and neighborhood. Provide all trim and overhang details, provide all exterior light fixtures and paint colors. Revised materials have been submitted in response to commissioner business meeting comments. The scale and materials of the proposed new garage appear appropriate for this property. Also recommend moving this from conceptual to final approval as revised.
And Connie, because this would be different, given the nature of the garage doors that are proposed being a little different than normally we see in a historic district, we should probably caveat in any potential approval that this is given the advanced size of the home or grandeur of the home originally.
Yes.
Okay.
If this generally would be like probably no windows.
Correct. Yeah,
Not so.
this is more consistent with a carriage house that would have been appropriate for a home of this size. Do you have anything additional to add?
No, I'm not sure if this is the latest diagrams that we've submitted. I'm happy to show them. They just have some additional detail that was requested at the last meeting.
I was just saying to someone that what you could do is go to. Yeah. So, I probably got it ready, but it didn't. This was what comes with having Brewery District and HRC on the same day. I could never remember.
That's all right.
Sorry for calling you up.
That's all right.
That's okay.
It always helps to get the right approval.
Right.
While they're doing that, by the way, wonderful house.
Thank you very
It
much.
needed a new owner with some good love.
We've been having a lot of fun.
We just all want to be invited to the party when you're done.
We're a little ways away, but we'll keep that in mind.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, yeah. That one's
Small.
That's
So
a,
they did everything.
Do you mind scrolling down a little?
1 by 6, the 1 by 12 inches.
yeah,
There we
there,
They could even be.
yeah, the fixtures are on it, great. We just make sure that these are included in the file.
Particular drawings.
Yeah.
These are the ones that I ended up stamping.
Okay.
They look good.
Yeah.
Over there. What's the date on these? Do you recall? Actually, check email. Is there a number, usually at the bottom of the drawings, so we can reference them? I just want to put it in the public record.
Sure, just give me 1 second. The 14th of April is when we submitted them.
14th of Mill, but they don't have any,
Maybe I'll just have
Revised.
you, whoever did them could just maybe put a date on.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, okay. I'd like to make a motion to include the revised 414 submittal of the garage details, cut sheets, and overhang details to be approved as is.
Okay, wonderful. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Further point of just discussion. I'd like for the motion to include the fact that the garage doors and the light fixtures being proposed specifically are unique to this case, given the type, size, and construction and scale of the house, and being a little bit different than what we normally would see on a garage structure, just for public record, because we get these kinds of things where we don't normally approve garage doors with windows or that look like these kinds of scenarios, but this is unique to the architectural circumstances.
I'm okay with that change.
Accepted.
Wonderful, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposition or abstention? Motion passes.
If I could ask a question,
Sure.
Is that the final approval, or can I request move to final approval?
You've just got it.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I will issue a COA and send me those back with a date on it. And I will send you that all, and then you submit those materials with your building permit application.
Right, absolutely. Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Case number 12, 2051 North 4th Street. If you could
And I
No,
wasn't.
no, if you could,
Swearing in part.
both raise your right hand. Do you each swear to tell the truth before, in your testimony before the commission this evening?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. And if you could state each individually, your name and association with the property.
James Newcheck, owner.
Okay,
Karen Nemchek, owner.
wonderful. Thank you. Hi.
Okay, so this is to add 2 additional parking spaces, one on each side of the existing garage. March 7th business meeting comments included, it may be appropriate to consider additional surface parking spaces if the materials are permeable, such as California driveways or surfaces that allow grass to grow through. The issue of existing oversized unstriped concrete and asphalt parking areas is an ongoing issue in university area historic districts. Some of these areas require dual review by the HRC and the University Impact District Review Board. Columbus Register guidelines do not directly address parking surfaces, while the UIDRB guidelines state, and I'm quoting, a minimum of 2 and maximum of 4 single-stacked parking spaces should be provided. And the use of green technologies to manage stormwater runoff in parking lots consistent with the Department of Public Utilities requirements and approval is strongly encouraged. In regard to zoning code, there are no parking setbacks for rear yards as long as maintaining less than 50% lot coverage and providing at least 25% rear yard. And so I recommend approval of either option 1 or option 2. So this is either to add the 2 strips of concrete, which I think is maybe their first option, or to use something like turf. Turf, forget what it's called. To allow grass to grow.
Interesting idea.
And this would be a test case.
I've seen the turf stone pavers before. They're done right with a good base. They have to be executed right so that you don't get rutting in.
And that was one of the concerns.
Oh, so you already understand that? If
If
you
you-
park a
if you-
vehicle in the same place for every day, it eventually.
You can't just scrape your ground and put them down. You have to compact a substrate first, and you have to put down aggregate, and it has to be compacted in order to really hold those pavers, and then you have to put them in like you would put in any other decorative paver. They do hold up over time. In fact, there are other alternate products that are meant for maybe heavier vehicles and trucks, if you're doing more than just a car. They can always be reset from time to time on a new base if they do rut. But, I guess, tell us about your 2 options and your preferences rather than us driving the
Yeah.
discussion.
We're the designers of it. As you can see on the chart map there is a drive, if you remember from the pictures. And we have found that in getting into the garage, that was always much easier in the wintertime because it was cement and it can be shoveled. And the sun melts the ice and the snow on that surface. It didn't do so on the other side, as far as on the side. Then I do prefer the double track for the purpose of it can maintain, we know it can maintain the weight. If you remember from the pictures, we did have some pretty heavy duty pavers in there. And these were 2 foot wide, 16 to 18 inches, and they're solid. And just parking my little Ford Ranger there isn't a very heavy truck or anything. It's, lighter than our one sedan. And it would concave the pavers that are in there. And then maybe with a better base, you might be right, but I think over time, they'll always do that. So that's what we've, so the double track, and then, would like to know if we could get something okay today to take back to the city. If that means grass between the double track for now, that'd be fine. What I was thinking in the long run was to put a permeable paver between those, like the turf stone. You see what I mean? Between the double track and then on the side of the double track. And then that way it is somewhat solid, for the entire parking space, which is what we know from city zoning they're looking for. And yet it's the double track in the middle, which is a really solid base for no matter what vehicle somebody may park in the future.
It is, and then tell me in those kind of cross, hatched areas that say drive 11.3 by 9.3, what is happening there? Because I know you have an existing drive of concrete in front of the garage, that apron, but what are you envisioning happening left and right of that in those stripes?
Well, instead of me explaining, can we go back to the picture? There's maybe there's a better picture for the other side. There we go. That's what is currently there.
Okay.
Non-permanent solution, as you can tell.
So is
So
that?
what are you proposing?
Yeah,
So that would
what's
be-
happening there?
Yeah, well, you mean what's happening there now or?
What's your
No,
proposal
what's your?
to do right?
The proposal, you see where there is the existing cement, or I'm sorry, concrete drive to the garage?
Mm-hmm.
The proposal for now would be to cut that square and to pour garage or drive space there of concrete, leading up to where the parking spaces are. And then in the future, replace, you can see how and maybe do the entire back there all at one time as far as replacing all of that concrete going up to the
Just
garage.
making the apron. So then on this drawing, you're saying this would be concrete, these little,
Yes,
so all concrete.
right,
Okay.
yeah, for safety reasons, as I said, in the wintertime, those along the side with the sidewalk, it ices up there, you can't ever really get it, so it's a hazard if you're walking. And then even with vehicles, the tires spin in trying to get up there most of the time until you get out there and really get out. All of the ice that had been pulled into where there are
divots. And then when it freezes overnight, they're there and they're just so hard to get out. You know, you just give up on trying to get the ice out.
Basically almost 30.5 feet all the way through there, all up to back per unit.
Staff's position on this has been.
It's just, I think, whatever we do, it's going to be a test case. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 test cases to see what works best, because it's just been, like I said, over the years, there's been so many people who have put down concrete and asphalt in so many places. They've demolished historic garages without approval. They put down asphalt without approval, and there's 4, 5, 6 spaces. So I think we need to come up with some sort of solution. Our guidelines don't really address it. So without waiting for guidelines to be updated, I think it's sort of an experimental thing to try to provide more parking, because we're not going to go back to the 50s and 60s where parents came and dropped off their kids without a car. They all bring 1 car, 2 cars, a motorcycle, whatever. So the problem isn't going to go away, and to come up with some sort of solution that's not asphalt or all concrete, the water runoff issues, trying to maintain some green space. I don't know what the solution's going to be, but I think we can find something.
Connie, just for my own edification, I assume staff does not allow the car to park in this area.
That would be the one issue, I would be kind of concerned about.
I mean, how could you control it?
Right, unless there was a
Yeah.
fence right there that opened and closed.
I personally, I feel that,
They would end up double stacking.
yeah,
Right.
that's how that's.
Even with.
Can I
the
make a
fence
comment
up.
on that? One of the reasons why we're pursuing it so quickly is congestion in the OSU area, which is one thing you're addressing. But if you parallel park your cars on the alley, at least where we are, and on North Fourth, we have a significant auto burglary problem. Somebody walks down the alley, just smashes the window out, just goes through vehicles. And I let all my neighbors know that, and it's been 100% hit rate to our neighbors to the south. When students would move into there, they would park their car right behind the 2-car garage because they didn't want to get in those single doors. They just weren't. And every year, eventually somebody smashed the window out, and then they would learn not park in the. They would learn to park in the garage. So people do it for a convenience thing, but they don't like to be double stacked there. Does that make sense? As you're saying, because that's also a convenience that if somebody needs to leave, then they. But really, the burglary issue has become a significant issue in the last couple of years.
I'm just throwing out that amongst the commission. First of all, this distance from here is humongous. And could even potentially allow for more than just 1 car, double stacking cars. So the first thing in my mind is can there be a limit to the depth of this thing where it's you've got noted, I think, 2 by 21. I don't see why you have to 21 feet. A typical parking space is only 9 by 18. So there's shortening down 18. And then secondarily is perhaps a requirement for a fence so that this can then be screened in, that you're confining the space to the area you're.
Can I address a point and then a question?
Sure.
The 21 was picked because it was 1 foot further than what the city requires. City zoning is minimum of 20 by, what is it, 10?
I think it is 20, but I don't know.
Yeah, as far as it. So I got that, I took that from city zoning.
Yeah, but you're not counting the drive.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is the
Right.
drive all the way to the full spot, you could double stack cars there, which is what we're trying to prevent.
So here's the thing, is your California strip, if you will, or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call this.
your car tire, this is meant to support your car tire. Your car
Right.
could still overhang the edge of that concrete another foot
Yes.
plus
And then,
and be perfectly fine. We're trying to find a solution for
Right.
the historic district. So,
Yeah.
in my mind, if
Something
we
that
need
way.
to wheel stop or something, the edge of that 19-foot edge, your car can still overhang. You technically still do have a 20-foot deep spot because the nose of that car, so graphically, you can still show that you have the spot.
Or the alternative, leave it like that and just do one side.
I had a question on the,
Because right now you only have one side, right?
well, if you look at the pictures, I let the grass grow in that area.
There's a fence up on that side too.
Yeah, well, those are both gates.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to ask about your gated idea, because we already have gates up. But how would those gates work that you're talking about? The gates
Just
would,
hinged gates on
Yeah.
posts.
well, the gates that I have up are for security purposes, like Rowdy Michigan weekend. I go out there and I close the gates, just so
So
the
on
students
Well,
decide.
I
to
hope
go
you
onto
would close your
another
gates
property.
all the time so that you could.
Yeah, close the gate. So this side has a gate. It doesn't look like it has a gate on both sides.
Is that the picture up here?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are gates there.
I'm talking like a pair of gates that would have a shorter opening. I think you've got just one.
Yeah,
large
this
gate.
one.
Oh, yeah, I guess there is a gate piece over there.
There's a gate piece on that side, but you're saying it's on both sides. It can close.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, both of those are made like this, where there's one long part of the gate and then a pedestrian gate. Now, how would that what would that do as far as limiting the parking, though? That's what I'm not understanding.
Well, I hope you're not parking in the setback zone.
Correct, yes. But how would the gates keep people from parking in the setback zone? That's what
Assuming the person pulls in and they.
And
close
then
the
they
gate.
close the gate behind them, so then it wouldn't double stack the cars. But if that's happening,
I
then.
mean, obviously, what's right here right now is you've got an inward opening gate rather than an outward opening gate, and it just looks like it's being left open all the time.
Yeah, that's was the state. Those pictures were taken right after, well, whenever this whole adventure began.
Does the approach to the garage need to be redone also?
Well, you can see from the concrete, it's pretty old. You can see that there's a good picture of the cracks that are in it, it's still very usable.
Do you have to do both sides?
Well, it would be preferred. It is a duplex. So,
Does anybody park in the garage?
yeah, we do have a vehicle in the garage and then room for
One?
a motorcycle or a bike, things like that.
That's like a 1.5 car? It looks like a 2-car.
It is a 2-car, but it's sort of tight. It's only 18 by 18.
I'm more inclined to one side being done. And then if this test case works, then we can go from there. I mean, we've never done anything really at this level. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
normally we would not allow any of this kind of thing. So we're sort of trying to figure out some new territory to see, how this is actually going to function. What are the realistic opportunities to have something that's environmentally friendly, that works well with the product and helps people that occupy the building.
And what's the reason for only one side?
What you just said.
It's just because these are actually,
It's not allowable right now. So we could just say no to all of it. So we're trying to learn through this process.
Okay.
And it's a lot of parking that you would be adding if you did too. So it probably wouldn't be a good precedence, I don't think.
is this historically a single family or is it it's a twin?
Oh, it's a full-blown duplex. Yeah, as far as it's,
From original construction.
yeah, it's, has walk through, bathroom finished attic.
It's really unique.
So it's like when students were renting it, they were utilizing the starting room.
Yeah, because who used it then,
Right.
Right.
Which person?
Well, maybe the person got one space.
Yeah,
That's why I was
they
thinking
could
it was
people
a
share
car.
back then.
So if you would be amenable to using one side or the other as a test case, I'm thinking that that's kind of the direction that we're speaking of at this moment.
Okay.
And then doing the concrete lip.
You could do the apron, you could
Yeah.
do I don't know about the fill-in that you had mentioned about, at some point you were considering doing something down the road and that kind of thing. I think if we leave green space in the center,
Needs to be a planted.
yeah,
planted
gotta be grass. And then, and obviously the fence has to be installed as well.
So I
Are
think
you
from,
sa-
go ahead,
are you
because
saying
it's
that-
more important to hear from you.
Are you saying that on the other side that we didn't actually realize that there's a gate? Or is someone parking there now?
I did have a vehicle parked.
Okay, so that's probably not legal.
Yeah, as far as,
There's no park,
yeah,
cars parked now.
either,
You
we,
can't park on it.
yeah, we require a certificate of parking from the city. Since they require 2 spots, 2 parking spaces per unit. The city code is, you folks know.
So are you saying that the city was allowing you to park on the grass? That's a code violation.
No,
No,
the other side does have pavers down. There was a picture of it.
That's the other side.
It's
But on
just,
the other side, is someone parking on the other side?
That is the other side they're saying.
go back, there's,
So that's
So
that's
that's
the
the
north
side,
That's the left side.
yeah.
that's the other
That's the
side.
gate closed on the
There's
right.
additional pavers behind that gate.
Behind the right side.
Oh, there's people.
Right.
That's the right
Yeah,
side.
I did have a car there. And then I decided to just go ahead and let the grass grow, just so there was more, people that walk their dogs would be safe.
Yeah, so my
They
point
would use that spot.
See the pictures
basically
right.
that if the commission approves it on one side, there can't be someone parking on the other side where.
I mean, my honest concern
Yeah.
right now is already based on compaction and it looks like wear paths where there are additional cars pulling even beyond this. And then I go back to the picture of the other side. of the garage,
Before check that Dodge is perfect.
And I was gonna say that,
Yeah.
that the truck is all the way back to here.
Right.
And if this is a common event, that's what the problem is already.
Right.
Yeah, I did have a couple vehicles stored back there. Overworking.
But there's also this other, this part here with the boulders. Isn't that?
Yeah, it's you on the commission know, or everybody here knows. There's the red there, there's a requirement of putting fence or boulders or curb.
To
somebody
block
had
you
mentioned
from
that,
pushing
yeah.
that close to the house.
Right, so that's where if it just ended at 18 feet, there would have to be something to keep it from going back further. That's what you.
This,
Fortunately, the scale of that plan isn't.
yeah, so the other city division suggested these boulders? Or this was your,
Yeah, this plan was actually more, it was developed along with zoning in a way of talking with them and them saying, well, these are things that we will insist. And pretty much what we were told was, before you take this to HRC, you submit it to us first to get our okay on it. We're like, okay. You know, and it wasn't an official okay. I think we
Yeah, just a
communicated with you
preliminary.
either in writing or in speaking that we spoke to.
Yeah.
What's her name?
And
And the grounds.
Yeah, yeah. So
they will,
this was developed with her.
I still think one side, but I do like, because of the preventing people from parking on that other side.
I do agree
Something
that the
to block.
fence ball, I think the 4-foot section of fence or 4-foot tall fence component is a necessary component to prevent vehicles from going further in.
Yeah, it is pretty.
And I think that in the event that was suitable to do one side or the other, that the remaining side would need to be turned back to grass.
Yes,
Correct. Yeah, and
I agree with that.
I'm supportive of the California parking strip going all the way out to the alley, that there not be a widening of the apron from left to right, that strip just continues all the way right down to your alleyway.
Okay. Can I ask a question on that then?
Sure.
And then that with grass in between?
Yes.
Okay, then
Side
how would
grass on the
one
sides.
navigate to get out to the alley without? You're suggesting a perpendicular where there's not enough room in the alley in order to make it without having the driveway space?
You're saying if you're turning in, that radius of the turn, they go into
Exactly.
the green area.
Yeah, whenever we go to go in, it's typically from the one side. If you have a small car, you can do both. But still, you actually have to sort of come out and then go around as far as to miss the, there's a telephone pole on one side, and then the neighbor has hedges and fencing extending to the alley on the other side.
So just as
Go
an
back to
idea,
the, you can see the.
So which side would you prefer to do?
Exactly.
This left side or the right side? If you had to pick one.
I say, I don't know at this time. You could say, no, you have to choose.
no, because you're gonna have
You'll
revised
have to go back
materials.
and do
come back.
revised drawings and materials anyway. We just want to kind of help you think through it. Oh, go ahead.
Is one side wider than the other?
One side is wider than the other side. But what else?
The right side's wider?
The south side is wider, yeah.
I mean, we can take it with, so you can.
Well, let me ask a question. Is the California strips to the alley, is that pretty much firm decision this time? Because I'd like to plug for the.
My fear is that the execution of the paver won't be done well.
And that, the in between, you mean? Or if you go with.
No,
the paver-
as a driving surface, period.
Yeah,
I'm not saying to do that in between. I don't think that would look right to do it in between the concrete strips.
okay.
It's to consider doing that as an overall approach if you do that across the whole thing, the whole area. But we'd have to have, details of what your installation actually looks like. Right now, you've just submitted the paver. I don't think that the manufacturer probably recommends that you just put that paver over mud.
Right, over top.
So, and there's no.
But that's
detail.
right. I think in our proposal.
I think we're going away from that. You're going to concrete,
What's
right?
that?
You're going to concrete. You're not going to do those. Is what you've sort of preferred, correct?
Well,
He said that for the apron, he wanted concrete, yeah. For both the driveway, the strip and the garage entrance, your preference was concrete, correct?
right. If it is the California, I'll call it the double track.
Yeah.
If it's a double track to the alley, then I'm really not seeing how I can tell you, if people go to pull in,
Mm-hmm.
because I found this on the other side where there was grass. And I opened up the gates and I parked the vehicle there temporarily. And I found that anytime you hit grass going uphill, your wheels immediately spin because you're trying to move a vehicle slightly up a grade on grass. And it just spins.
Well, and I think maybe an opportunity that we're getting at is that if that apron perhaps was not solid the full 9.3 feet, maybe it's the first
4 feet.
4 feet or 5 feet or something, to get that radius under control. That would be fine because you're already using half the alleyway when you turn anyway. So that's, 7, 8 feet of that 15 or 18.
I think I'd be amenable to the first 4 feet having a strip left to right.
So if you want to replace the apron to the garage, 4 feet on the left or the right, whatever you choose, and then run your 2-foot tracks all the way back 21 feet. You just have to let us know which side. And that, if you're gonna replace that apron, you gotta change some language there as well.
I only support taking the track to 20 feet.
So be it, 20.
I can agree with that.
And I think the fence, the 4-foot tall fence has to hug that,
Correct.
the end.
Mm-hmm.
So we need a little bit more of a scaled drawing to what we're seeing here. Right now, there's a lot of loosey-goosey numbers.
This dimension from here to here should be no greater than 20 feet.
Understood that. Discussing it further, if I may. Really, where those drive spaces are. 4 feet isn't gonna work. Again, if there's any grass there, it will spin. I would, if that's the decision, that's what you're thinking, it would then be preferable to go with the turf stone, because that is somewhat for the wheels, the tires themselves, that is a more solid base. Does that make sense? There isn't any point in which a drive tire will be entirely on grass.
So what if you even use the turf stone and the apron and then run your concrete double tracks?
That, I'll tell you, in the long run, because we're not going to live here forever. So, you know, these houses are going to be here forever. And that's sort of what we're deciding. Whatever this test case is, as you say, it's going to become maybe what is done in this entire area.
Or what's
So
not
that's why I'm looking at that same
Right.
issue.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But there's,
Okay.
So I think you eliminate a lot of watershed, particularly using the turf stone in that apron area. But so modify the length of that, pick the size you want, call out all the specific details. If you still plan on replacing the apron, make sure that's called out as well.
I
Or if you're
think,
just gonna cut it off.
I think a crucial thing though is I'd like to see what the installation detail of this is. What are you putting this over?
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, we did have.
The
the original
manufacturers usually give you a
proposal.
recommendation for how to put it. Most of the manufacturers, when you're using it in a vehicle application, will explain to you what you have to have underneath it for a base, and you're probably gonna need to know that for permitting anyways.
And it'll need to be called out on the drawing.
Let me ask, is compacted, from what I understand, compacted soil with compacted,
It's, I can't give you that. It is gonna be the
Manufacturer.
manufacturer. It's probably compacted soil with a compacted aggregate of some
Yeah.
form.
because that's what from what I looked up, that's what it.
And then you probably have to get very specific
And
about
that's-
the breed of grass that you grow in these kinds of pockets, but I know there are vegetation seeds now for this specific application. This thing is kind of catching on in places outside the US.
An additional question, if we're going with turf stone for the apron, as you're calling it,
Mhm.
what about turf stone between the California track?
I don't think that's appropriate.
I don't think I can see that.
Okay, so we'll continue to the next meeting. Does that give you enough time to work on the drawings and details and so forth? And then you can submit that to staff.
I do have a question.
Okay,
So then, so would the turf stone be the 10 feet or?
9.3.
Yeah, in between. So 4 feet of concrete right there in the drive.
But he's saying it needs to be more than 4 feet.
Yeah, no,
No.
No, I'm saying concrete would be 4 feet and then the rest would be
basically all of that.
All of this would be turf stone? Be concrete, hard turf.
No, I think it would all be turf stone.
And so this is.
I understood part concrete, part turf stone.
What does the applicant want to do? What are you proposing?
Would you
What
want
would
to
you-
do
what would you-
part concrete or part turf stone?
It seems like then you're in like 3 different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's for us, this is why I submitted two, because I'm not. In envisioning this, I was trying to make it as consistent as possible to blend in with the rest of the neighborhood too. And meet city zoning.
The other thing,
I don't really have a preference.
Okay.
Because I feel I'm like, well, whatever it is to meet city zoning and whatever it is to meet historical standards, you see what I'm saying?
I
And
think
it's
for,
like,
I think
if
for
it works, then it works, and
I
that's
think
where.
for upkeep purposes, it may be easier to do the entire apron area out of turf stone.
Okay.
To try to get it going. I think installation wise, you'll probably be more successful doing the entire apron that.
yeah, especially if you're gonna square up the edges from the existing concrete pad, whether you keep it or not. I mean, it'll be a nice clean edge and
Yeah, the
Yeah.
angles with turf stone, that would just
That'd
look
be a
like we
nightmare.
tried to apply a historic or modern
Yeah.
solution to an existing.
Okay.
so, and just to make sure, it's a little deceiving, but the areas that are with the sort of vertically lines, that's the entire area that composes of that 11.3 by 9.3.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not necessarily aesthetic of that small square. Just to make sure everybody knows kind of what's
Oh,
happening.
Got it.
And actually, going back to something too. Would turf stone be acceptable for the parking pads, as I'll call them? We were talking about the California track. But how then, since we're at this point, how would it look to go with turf stone and then to the dual tracks?
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
Particularly, you're gonna have concrete in front of the driveway, so. And I don't think you're gonna get the settling problem, which was your bigger concern earlier. You're rutting All right, I make a motion to continue the next
Second.
meeting.
In a second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Let's continue to work with content based.
Thank you.
Just continue to work with. content.
Oh, yes.
And would you be able to submit new drawings by, next Thursday? Revised drawings by next Thursday?
We could try to meet that goal, but you're saying they'll have to be submitted to make the next meeting.
If not, as soon as you can get them in after, just remain in dialogue, key thing.
Yeah.
Remain in dialogue, A. B, just show diligent progress. And if there's additional ideas or revisions,
Right.
we do have our business meeting, we do get feedback during those. We can have an interactive session quite like this.
Right, you folks have an interaction.
We do, but at least you can garner opinions or
Right.
concepts or where something's going, and on a limited basis, we can allow some interaction.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to go back to application 8HR-22-04-010.
Thank you.
Continue that.
You want to continue?
Continue. Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not you.
Good night.
Do you feel, with the information that we have, do you feel comfortable with approving that?
Well, you thought that the applicant was going to be.
I thought they were going to, but I think they answered your questions, but I'm not sure if it was.
Let's just, can we go over it real quick here and let's see what that.
Might be able to finish it up.
So there was to install a new rubber roof, where on that sort of flat portion there. And you asked, to provide, the slope of the roof, which they didn't actually do, but they provided some additional, photos. And, so while the female roofing may be original to the house, or has at least been there for several decades, the very low slope of the roof makes the rubber roofing system appropriate in order to avoid leakage and damage to other historic fabric. And I don't think, it doesn't appear like it's so flat that it's not visible. So.
It's a shame, it just pains me because this looks like the original roof to this house.
Yeah, it does.
And how are they proposing to terminate the roof when it hits the gutter?
I don't know.
Yeah, we need to.
Wrap it in the gutter.
I think that's an important thing to know is how they propose to detail the edge of that treatment. Are they going to just simply put the rubber roof over the top of this? So there were a few of these on Bryden Road, and exactly that's what they did, is they went right over these roofs.
Over the existing?
I mean, they're, I don't know what is involved in removing these roofs because they're all leaded seams.
If you don't feel comfortable with it, we can continue
I
it.
think we need to. We need
Let's
to-
continue it.
But can you also propose to the applicant things that
Just some
brought up?
questions.
Right.
Yeah.
At least we'll give them some chance to
And
respond.
also additionally, can you ask them how most rubber roofs, in order to get a manufacturer's warranty on it, usually have to flash up the wall? And right now, when I look at the pocket corner, if you go flip to the photo, I mean, obviously they're gonna encounter a siding condition and then an existing masonry condition, and what are they doing for flashings when they come up against those walls? I mean, if all of a sudden we're gonna see 8 inches of flash up the wall, which is required by a lot of manufacturers, then,
To do it right, you pull the siding right behind the siding.
yeah, I like.
And really, the siding shouldn't be touching this roof, but, it's been like this for 100 years.
Right.
Or what have you.
So if we get a sense of like what's gonna happen with all the terminations on the chimneys, and
And what would be, as I'm thinking of rubber roofing,
they usually just turn it up, put it under a
Metal strip.
metal strip, and then sometimes there's a nice counter flashing. Sometimes people don't like to do the nice counter flashing people. They just goopus the seams, and that just looks awful.
but what about the edge of the roof though also?
I think you kind of have to end up with a termination bar or some kind of drip strip there,
Okay.
probably. But that's why I think it's best to ask them what are they thinking, because they've got this, what looks to be maybe not original, or maybe it is an older gutter, I can't tell. I just don't want all of a sudden there's like a new roof, new giant flashings, all bright white finished, and a giant new gutter on the thing, and it looks out of place.
So was there a motion to continue?
Yes.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries.
Old business maybe?
Yes.
All business, this was for 602 East Town Street. This is one that you were familiar with before, had to do with parking space cross easement, was already existing on the front. Application was moved to staff approval at the April 7th HRC business meeting. A recommendation will be issued in conjunction with the Downtown Commission.
Great.
And then finally, you come all the way from Cleveland? too?
Not just for this.
Okay.
Oh, come on, make us feel special.
I mean, making like, wait till that.
I know, sorry.
Just raise your right hand real quick. Just swear to tell the truth in your testimony before you push this evening.
I do.
Wonderful. And state full name and association with the property for record.
Sure, I'm Peter Ketter with Sandvik Architects. We're the architect and historic preservation consultant.
Thank you. Bonnie.
Okay, this is to modify the window type on the second floor of the south and west elevations only. The previous approval was for a Chicago style window, while physical evidence now indicates that original windows were 1/1 double hung sash for submitted photos. And I'm going to be a little witty on this just for documentation. This is a listed property that is undergoing triple review by HRC and Downtown Commissions and the National Park Service for historic tax credits. All existing windows are non-original and non-contributing. Following approval by the HRC for installation of Chicago-style windows on the second floor of the south and west elevation, the National Park Service commented, this is a quote, the proposal for the full bay second floor window openings is not consistent with the available historic photographic evidence. The window appeared to historically have been three hung sash of similar size, three hung sash of similar size. Thus, the center unit, the three proposed must not be significantly wider than the flanking ones and needs to be offset sash even if it is not an operable unit. Some historic photographs or drawings of the original windows have not been located. So the initial design was based on the initial design that you approved was based on the age of the building, the size of the openings, and that many similarly styled buildings from the same era have Chicago style windows. Upon removal of interior walls, some physical documentation was found indicating the openings did include three equally sized windows. And for that reason, we recommend approval of the application based on 3116.11 standards for alteration, which part says repair or replacement of missing architectural shall be based on accurate duplications of features substantiated by historic, physical, or pictorial evidence rather than on conjectural designs.
I think this is a no-brainer.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thanks, Tommy. Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second, and all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Wonderful. Meeting concludes here at 5:57 PM.